would you want to eat in a restaurant with a heavy fork and nothing fresh on the menu?
Okay. Right away, chef.
Is it because you're in space?
The great restaurant in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about space or restaurants.
Clearly.
But, but if there was one, then the heavy fork would stop it floating away.
Doesn't really work that with gravity.
No.
There either is gravity or there isn't.
Yeah.
If the people are floating away, the fork's not going to be staying. Your sprouts are going to be all over while you can't lift your fork.
No sprouts. This is just like the toothpaste that astronauts have.
So what do you need the fork for?
To open the toothpaste.
It's like somebody direct from NASA. Mark, what do you reckon?
I think the space thing sounded quite plausible.
You like that, do you think?
Yeah, because in space you can't have anything fresh, can
Okay.
you?
They grow things in space,
It's
don't
nothing
they?
to do with space! Philip, help me out.
I'd love to help you out.
Go on then.
So, are we talking about, like, game?
Is it a fork or
Yes,
is it
it
another...
isn't- it isn't
got a
eating
fork
with-
in the road?
Is it to do with space? I've had some very difficult TV appearances, but my classes normally do stay on.
She starts throwing the hat around, you know you're in trouble, Mark Watson.
OK, none of this is working. There is a computer scientist, his name is Dan Jarafsky, and he looked at the description of dishes on 6,500 menus. And the higher-end restaurants, they tend not to describe food as fresh. They don't describe it as tasty, they don't describe it as ripe, because the customers in the high-end restaurants expect it to be those things. In fact, in posh restaurants, they tend to use kind of sexy terminology. So if food is sort of sensuous or silky, they use language like that.
Nude.
Yeah. Nude, yes. Yeah. Care for a nude aubergine.
We got a topless chicken and we put it under the grill. Ooh, that's a bit naughty.
This sandwich will wank you off.
That's too sexy.
Yes. We've all thought it. We've all thought it.
What's wrong with you? No! OK, moving on. In posh restaurants, they use a completely different language. And here is the bizarre thing. People enjoy their food more with heavy cutlery. So there's a guy called Charles Michel, and he is the chef in residence at Oxford University's Cross-Modal Research Laboratory. So what they are researching is how our different senses modulate any appreciation of flavour. And so he gave everybody exactly the same meal. And people who used heavy cutlery were willing to pay 15% more for their food. It is one of the most bizarre things.
Yeah. Was there any point when the fork became too heavy? Because I reckon there is that is a scale that actually, by the time you've got like a garden fork, people are then refusing to pay again.
What you might have done now inadvertently is inspired cheap restaurants to glue their forks to the table to give the illusion.
Or glue two forks together, thereby doubling the weight.
Yeah.
One of the ways that restaurants trick you into spending a bit more money, did anybody know?
Hypnotism.
What?
Hypnotism.
Hypnotism.
Would you like the veal?
I mean, I'd certainly order it after that.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, one of the things they do is they remove the pound sign from menus.
Oh, yeah.
So they did a study at Cornell University, and if it just has the numbers, somehow we don't associate that with the true cost of something.
Yeah,
You think it might just be 2.4 ants or something?
Our brain kind of doesn't turn that into dollars or pounds. If you put $20, then you suddenly think about the price, but if you just have the number, subconsciously, we don't think about the cost. How many holes can you see in this cheese?
Oh, my God, I can't.
Right.
Oh, don't look, you don't like holes, do you?
Every time.
Every time we have holes on this show.
Every time it's holes.
I'm so sorry. Don't look. But also you won't get any points for this one.
It's OK, because they're not right next to each other, aren't exactly the same size.
OK, good.
So how do you use a sieve?
I can't.
Can we not talk about sieves? Literally every time I'm on the show, they show me holes.
I'm sorry, the world's got a lot of holes in it.
Would you play golf if you never actually looked?
No,
That's just one hole. There has to be lots of holes together in the same size.
So a cheese grater would be bad.
Connect 4.
Why don't you keep listing things that have got loads of holes in them?
Can
with you psycho.
I feel like I've known you a long time. I feel like we're quite close. It's never come up.
Only because you've got no holes in you, Deborah.
If I asked you to bring a tennis, could you do that? Because a tennis racket...
There's holes in the net.
They have to be round.
Got to be round, Deborah.
I'm so sorry. I've not been filled in.
No.
I'm not insane. Just
How many holes in this cheese?
2.
Is correct. So...
Sorry, why is he getting a clap?
Because there's
So I
only
never get anything right.
He's right, there's only 2 holes.
But you can see everyone knows there's only 2 holes.
Well, nobody else said it.
It's like, how many fingers have I got?
I get one thing right.
Give him 100 points.
Yeah. I think they're patronising Alan. Let's give Alan one he can answer, that kind of thing. And then we'll do a bit of colouring in its home time.
The story.
We're talking about topology. There are only 2 holes. The other things you can see are dents and deformations and so on. The only way there could be another hole in the cheese if there was a hole inside that was fully enclosed that we couldn't see. So there's a branch of mathematics called topology, and it deals with shapes and spaces and holes and so on. So a topologist, and indeed Alan, would only see 2 holes in this picture. Let's try an easier one. How many holes does this have?
2.
2.
It's because 1 to blow it up. And 1 in the middle.
You're sort of right, but your reasoning is not right.
It's impeccable.
We can't count the one with the valve in it because it's closed in this picture. So that's not a hole. OK. So you've got the one that the person's body goes through and then another one that makes up the hollow tube going around to the outside. But that only counts as a second hole if it's hollow. So, for example, a ring donut is different to a rubber ring because it's filled in with dough and it's not hollow, so a donut only has 1 hole. But the rubber ring has 2 holes because the whole of the hollow space counts as a hole. I happen to have a donut. There are donuts for everybody, that's the joke of it. So the donut, at no point is it hollow in this part, it's only got 1 hole, right?
I'll just check that, Tony.
Yeah, just see how that is.
All right.
Yours is vegan.
Lovely.
That's it. Now, I've got some packed lunches for you here. Rachel, that's for you, darling. You're going to have a Cornish pasty.
Yes.
Richard, you've got ham sandwiches. Ramesh, you've got a toast sandwich. That's for you. I'll be honest, Alan, yours looks a little tiny bit mouldy. So, what quite interesting thing can you tell me about your snacks, Richard? Ham sandwiches.
In nature,
yes,
they're the only thing that grows in triangles.
Well, here's the extraordinary thing. So, 1851, we know from a census that 436,800 sandwiches were sold on the streets of London, and they were all ham. Every single one.
They didn't sell any other sandwich.
They just sold ham sandwiches. Do you know who invented the pre-packaged sandwich?
Would it be a Joe Lyons tea shop?
No, it's much more recent than you might imagine. It's M&S.
M&S?
Yes, 1980.
Wow.
Apparently an assistant wrapped up some leftover sandwiches from the cafe and put them out for sale, and then it took off.
This is like a freestyle, innit? Just go for it.
Just go for it, sell them. So the most popular ones, egg mayonnaise, BLT and chicken salad. Those are the ones that make all the money.
All morally corrupt, those sandwiches, just so you know. All right, my vegan brothers and sisters.
Ramesh, let's have a look at your toast sandwich. What have you got in it? Did you rip it like that? Did you just open the bag? We could have reused it. What is wrong with you?
Well, it's got my name on it. It's very unlikely you're going to have another Ramesh on this. Or even me, based on how this is going.
Tell us what's in your sandwich.
So my sandwich has toast in it?
Yes, it is literally a toast sandwich.
Yes, and I can give you a fact about this.
Go on, then.
One day, Ramesh Ranganathan was given this on QI and was very insulted. So there's...
OK, so this is an historic sandwich. So Mrs Beeton, the great Mrs Beeton, her book of household management in 1861, she had a recipe for a toast sandwich. It was a piece of toast, seasoned with salt and pepper, and served between 2 slices of bread.
Wow. I mean, in many ways, she didn't need to write that down.
No, no. She says this sandwich would be very tempting to the appetite of an invalid.
I've got to tell you, it's delicious.
Is it good? Toast sandwich.
That's a good idea. Like, it's all about texture, isn't it? And I bet that's got a lovely texture to it.
Big up Mrs. Beaton. She's absolutely smashed it.
Rachel, Cornish pasty. What do we know about the Cornish pasty?
Well, this bit is where you hold it.
Yes.
That's called the handle.
Yes.
Famously. Or in the other parts of the south, they call it the edge.
And why was it created?
For miners.
Absolutely right. It was a portable lunch, basically, to take down the mines. You're absolutely right.
Is it true that in those pasties...
Yeah.
They put the pudding in the pasty as well?
Yeah, so it was perfectly possible to have the savoury bit one end and the sweet bit the other end. So you can see one there which has got a bit of savoury and a bit of
So is that
sweet.
a pastry barrier? Have they put a barrier in
A little pastry barrier.
Because if
yeah.
they didn't have enough pastry, slam a bit of toast in there. That would do the same job.
It's not the only one that does that, actually, Romesh. There's a thing called a Bedfordshire clanger, which looks more like a long sausage roll. And again, it's 2/3 savoury and 1/3 sweet.
They did that on the bake-off.
Did they? I didn't see. Can I just say, and this is, we should whisper this if anybody in Cornwall is listening, but the oldest Cornish pasty recipe comes from Devon.
Oh. Did you hear that, Cornwall? You didn't even come up with a pasty, losers.
The Devon one is from 1510. The Cornish oldest one is from 1746. Enjoying that toast.
It's just, you think it's going to be boring,
Yeah.
but the middle bread just tastes so different from the other two pieces.
You've really gone full circle on it.
Honestly, I think it might be the best thing I've ever eaten.
Well, you're a vegan, so I'm not surprised.
I just remembered I know a thing.
Oh,
about
wow.
Cornish pasties.
OK.
That picture reminded me.
Yes.
Those ones where it's all...
The crimping?
The crimping, I was going to say... Well,
I have all the baking terms that you
yes,
need.
it's just going to be that it's called crimping.
Right, Alan's eaten his sandwich. I said it was mouldy, but this is actually a rather brilliant thing. This is a mouldy anti-theft sandwich bag. So the sandwich is not mouldy at all. The idea is to stop people nicking it out the fridge.
Didn't work with Alan.
No, clearly not.
Do you want the rest of your toast sandwich now, Ron?
I will eat it.
Did you actually like it, Romesh?
I did. I mean, I feel nervous about saying it because I'm being persecuted as a vegan on this show, but it tasted all right.
I didn't know you were a vegan. You should mention it occasionally.
What did Mussolini want Italians to eat to make them big and strong? Oh, he had a national propaganda day for this foodstuff, and he wanted Italians really to take to it in a big way.
Was it a vegetable? Some sort of...
Not quite a vegetable.
Nuts.
Not nuts, no.
Right.
It's something Italians do eat. They have a specialist dish.
Ravioli?
Risotto. Risotto, which is made from...
Rice.
Rice, exactly. And Mussolini wanted to kick Italians off the habit of eating pasta and to get them into the habit of eating rice. And Italians didn't take kindly for this at all. And so here are some paddy fields, some Italian ladies growing rice.
And singing while they do it.
And singing as they did it. And rather extraordinary, he had on his side the Futurists. You probably know about the Futurist movement, which was a bit like...
Not yet.
The Dadaists and the... not yet.
Very good!
It's almost too quick. Yeah. That was brilliant. Yeah, but the Futurists were an art movement, and they were pretty witty. And Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, who was one of the great Futurists, he said that pasta made Italians lethargic, pessimistic and sentimental. And this caused outrage, as I'm sure was his intention. He opened his own restaurant, and he had some extraordinary dishes. I mean, way ahead. I mean, ahead of Heston Blumenthal or anybody like that. Here, this is my favourite one. It's called aero food, all right? Pieces of olive, fennel and kumquat are eaten with the right hand, while the left hand caresses various pieces of sandpaper, velvet and silk. All the while, the diner is blasted with a giant fan and sprayed with the scent of carnation to the music of Wagner. Wow. Isn't that a dish? I think somebody should have the guts and the wit to open a Futurist restaurant again. There are other ones. There was chicken fiat. A chicken is roasted with a handful of ball bearings inside. When the flesh has fully absorbed the flavour of the mild steel balls, chicken is served with a garnish of whipped cream. And there's one called the excited pig. A whole salami, skinned, is cooked in strong espresso coffee and flavoured with eau de cologne.
I think you've been to motorway services.
Pizza pie. What's the pizza-litically correct procedure for eating a piece of pizza? What is it?
Many years ago,
Yes.
I was a friend of and knew Fanny Craddock.
Oh, dear Fanny.
The younger people won't know who she was. She was a television chef, a sort of interesting cross between Mary Berry and Jeremy Clarkson. A wonderful woman. And she taught me and my wife how to make pizza, proper Neapolitan pizza, and she explained to us, A, that you cut it up, but then you don't use knife and fork to eat it. You have to eat it by hand.
Yes.
And you have to feed one another.
Yeah. The fact is, you can eat pizza any way you please, but there are certain thoughts, there's some advice about how to do it.
It's a fold, isn't it?
It's a fold.
So the grease doesn't go everywhere.
Yeah, so what you end up with is a sort of triangular package with all the toppings inside, they don't slip off.
That looks exactly like Fanny's.
No, I think that's the perfect way to eat pizza.
It is.
Well, I don't think so. I think that's a greedy way to eat pizza. That's like bunging as much in at a time as you can. Whereas in Italy, you tend to put a finger in and just sort of bend it. So
we're talking about eating pizza. Pizza in and then bend it, yeah?
That was your mind. That was not mine.
Can I just say that my mother watches this?
Not for much longer.
No.
You don't fold it because then you
Where
don't
do you
get
put
the...
a finger in, though, Sally? Where do you put a finger?
Well, you... how do you do it? I'm just trying...
You can't put the finger
You kind of... You make it so it's like a bent... like a scoop thing. And so it's basically so that you can hold the end up.
So you've got to keep it up, but then pop your finger in.
If you hold the triangle flat, the end will go floppy. So do it like that.
Yeah.
Is anyone else with me? I've never really had a problem eating a bit of pizza. I tend to pick it up and bite some off.
Yes, and just get on with it.
What were the first animals to be herded for food? Yes.
Well, the first ones would have been an experiment, so it would have been guinea pigs.
Very good. Goats. Not goats. Yes.
Chickens.
Oh, no, not chickens.
Chickens. I've done it again with the letters.
Yes, Johnny.
T-Rexes.
Oh!
Pterodactyls.
No.
Godzilla.
If I tell you the letters...
Was it eggs?
Oh, the
eggs. Eggs. They were easy to move around the field.
No.
You could be a very lazy shepherd.
Shall I tell you the Latin name? Would that help? Helix, helix.
Helix, helix.
They've got a spiral on them. So the audience knows.
Snails.
Thank you, audience, for telling Alan.
They herded snails. That must have taken ages.
You think? Absolutely.
All you had to do was build a wall.
Snail farming seems to date back to 10,700 BC. The earliest things archaeologists have ever found that we appeared to farm.
Sorry, hang on. An archaeologist discovered that. So he's on a dig site and he found a snail and he went, oh, look, they must have...
that's not quite really.
I found a tiny snail farm. Send more money, mother.
So, in all seriousness, they dug up a bunch of snails and went, they must have been farmed.
I have proof.
No, they obviously wouldn't just say that, would they? Say, oh, we found some snail shells, therefore it's a farm. Obviously, one assumes
they found a
that as
tiny plastic fence and some
it.
tiny plastic animals.
Exactly, and some sheepdog bones near it.
Yeah, and a die-cast man with a whistle gun.
Exactly right. Tell me about snails' sex lives.
They do it by themselves, don't they?
They're all hermaphrodites.
Ah, wow.
Did they find some spinach, you know, that someone has grown for the first time ever successfully and then just hang around there, leaving the mess? Like dirty snail teenagers.
Possibly. They do dance and kiss for up to 20 hours before sex.
I know they do, but, you know, why do it on the plant?
Yeah. Good.
It's my first harvest.
Do you know, they have an optional...
You fork out on a grow bag and you think life's going to be different, don't you?
Johnny. Snails have An optional sexual organ, do you know what it's called? Which they can use for sex, but they don't always because it's quite dangerous.
A second arse.
The vaginas.
Second arse. It's called a love dart, actually.
The love dart?
Yes.
Well, that's a happy coincidence.
Yeah. It's actually more like a 7 to 11 millimetre dagger.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
This is uncanny.
It releases chemicals to stimulate the stabbed mate, so they stab their mate with the love dart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. It can result in injury if carried out inaccurately.
Of course.
But use of the dart doubles... Exactly.
Should have done it in
Sounds like an
daylight.
episode of Midsummer Murders.
It does, doesn't it? It does double the chance of offspring, though, using the love dart.
Anybody know where the word coconut comes from?
Is it something to do with the fact that you can see a face in one?
It is that. So coco refers to a character in Portuguese folklore. The name means grimace or grinning bogeyman. So it was basically Portuguese and Spanish seafarers from that period. And the 3 holes on the top of the coconut represent the face. In the Philippines, you spent time in the Philippines, haven't you?
I grew up
It's
there.
known as the tree of life.
Yes.
The coconut tree. Because
They use all parts of it. You know, they build their houses from it, you eat it. They use every part of the coconut.
This is actually in the Philippines. It's the Coconut Palace Court. This is a government building built entirely from coconuts. Now, here's the thing. We were going to try and open a coconut, but I don't trust any of you boys at all, so I've only given Sindhu the coconut. What I thought is you could have the coconut and a hammer and a screwdriver.
No.
You don't need a hammer and a screwdriver?
No, but...
Do you want the boys to mansplain what you need to do to open it?
Well, they're probably going to anyway, so do you guys get into it? Actually, because we open coconuts all the time. Whenever you do anything auspicious, you start with a coconut. It's not See?
Okay, yeah.
This is the way it goes. There you go. Here's the thing. It's something you do before any auspicious prayer or anything, or when you get something new. And, you know, people take it, like, if your grandmother's involved, she takes it very seriously. So when we got a new car, she did it not in front of the car.
Oh.
But,
on the car?
On the car.
Oh.
And it didn't work because the car is not concrete. So she said, this is very inauspicious. You have to return the car.
How many cars did you go through before you found one that...
No, we didn't. We told her, oh, you know, Granny, go to sleep. And then when she woke up, we said, this is another car.
But did you just strike it in a particular place?
You have to hold it here.
Right.
And if it doesn't crack the first time, it's your fault and you've done something inauspicious, and then your mother gives you a tight slap. So really, you just learn from the beginning.
But what if the reason you want to open the coconut is because you want to drink the coconut water inside?
These coconuts are not the drinking ones. Those are the green ones.
It's coconutally nuts how versatile the coconut. Who choose the Queen's food?
Beef eaters.
Bacteria.
Oh. Yes, we're going to accept that, except that we are in the land of honey.
It's a bee.
The worker bees. The worker bees?
The worker bees are the other... It's not all the other bees, because they divide up into lots of categories.
So there's lazy ones as well.
There are drone ones, there are scout ones, there are worker ones.
There are product development bees,
Yeah.
aren't there?
Yeah,
They've achieved very little recently. I mean, it is just honey, isn't it?
It's just...
Unless it's Manuka honey, and then it's 15 quid.
Yeah.
What are those bees on?
But when you compare them to Kit Kat, I mean, Kit Kat, there's orange Kit Kat, various... I mean, they really worked on the product development compared to honey. It's just honey.
So worker bees, they pre-digest the Queen's food because she doesn't have the necessary glands to digest it herself. Even more unpleasant than that, they have the power to put her on a crash diet. What? Yes, I know. So she gets really big and heavy. She's too heavy to fly. And when they want to swarm, which they do once a year, they put her on a crash diet so that she loses 1/3 of her body weight, and so she's ready to take off.
Is there a committee or something? There's some level of management that goes, you know, the Queen's getting a bit porky. Maybe.
Genuinely don't know how these decisions are made. So, for example, choosing a new queen, they seem to select rather randomly a bee at the larva stage. And they give it a special diet, different from all of the workers. So these are queen cups. These are new queens being developed. Most larvae are fed honey and pollen by worker bees, but occasionally one is fed only royal jelly, which is a sort of protein that's secreted from the glands in the worker bees' heads. And this one is elevated to royal status and becomes queen. But I like that you asked the question, because the truth is, we don't know.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we used to think it was the royal jelly that made the queens develop differently, and we now think it's not what she's fed, but what she is not fed. So the fact that she does not get pollen and honey like the others, it actually makes her ovaries grow large, while the others' reproductive organs, the ones that get the pollen and honey, they actually shrink. It's a terrible life, actually, because when it comes time to get rid of her, if she's sick or she's unproductive, she's not having any more babies, the workers kill her by balling her.
Oh, I don't know if I want to know what that is.
No.
It's not what I think it is.
No, large group swarms tightly around her and
Better than I was thinking.
raises her body temperature until she is fatally overheated. And I
know!
This is I love that we're all feeling sorry for this queen bee. But actually, we say queen bee, since Aristotle's time, it was always assumed it was a king. It took until the 1670s. There was a Dutch scientist called Jan Swammerdam, and he dissected a king bee under a microscope and rather just shocked to discover the size of the ovaries, which represent a quarter of a mature queen's body weight. He also learnt this great thing. If you remove the queen from the hive on a stick, all the other bees will follow you. And this is a beekeeping trick that people use now. And the most bizarre use was in the 18th century in show business. There was a beekeeper called Daniel Wildman. He had a honey shop in London, and he promoted it by riding horses, standing up while wearing a beard of bees.
And that made people buy from his shop rather than just thinking he was mad.
It's pretty startling if you have a look. This is not him, but these are other people who have the skill of getting bees to do as they please.
Did they all have honey shops as well?
I think they were just selling tickets in the end, because there was a woman called Patty Jones, so she was the wife of the inventor of the modern circus, Philip Astley, and she used to perform horse riding stunts, but she used to have a swarm of bees on her hand imitating a lady's muff. I mean a hand warmer.
So do I.
Who said let them eat cake?
Oh. Yes, it's that French woman.
Yes?
Dawn French.
Oh, very good.
She said let them eat brioche.
Who did?
I'm not saying it.
I'm asking you. I need to know.
Oh, was it Mr. Kipling?
Marie Osmond.
Marie Osmond.
Kirsten Dunst.
No.
Kirsten Dunst in that shocking film. It's the worst film ever made since Revolution with Al Pacino.
Did it involve cakes? Oh, a Marie Antoinette film.
Yes.
Oh, was it?
So would you say what?
Yes.
Who said it?
What you said.
Marie Antoinette.
Why are you keeping on saying Marie Antoinette?
Because I wanted that to happen. No, Marie Antoinette didn't say it, or if she did say it, she was quoting it. She was born in 1755, as every schoolboy knows, and the phrase was seen in print in 1760, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau claims to have seen it in 1740. So it's an old thing. It's this idea that it was Marie Antoinette is not true.
I think it's unfair. You want to hear the whole conversation.
Yeah.
They haven't got any bread. Let them eat cake. They haven't got any cake either. Oh, I understand this is a problem.
Yes.
I'll in some way talk to the ministers about it. We'll see what we can do.
That might well have been the accusation that one grand lady or another committed this particular gaffe was in circulation at least 15 years before Marie Antoinette was. Why do children play with their food? The sixth child of Sigmund Freud was called Anna Freud, and she took up her father's beacon of battiness. She was the first person to write about denial. That's Sigmund on the right.
For me, playing with food came out of being deprived in Liverpool when there were no toys.
So did you make sort of things out of meatballs instead of Lego?
Mum used to put out a plate of turnip tops and cockles.
So, as a youth, your toys were cockles?
My first toy was toy cheese. for Christmas. Honestly, it was a metal-like cheese portion, which you wound up, used to wind up, I remember this, on the lino, and put it down. I used to make, like, cheesy movements.
Cheesy movements. That is a very good reason to play with food, and it makes me all the sicker at the weirdness of Anna Freud. Anna Freud believed by playing with their food, they were really playing with their excrement.
The thing is, a child could play with its excrement
If it wanted to.
If it wanted to.
Of all human phases that you're in, lower infancy is the one where you can most get away with playing with your excrement.
Oh, he's got his hand in his nappy again. But that's the one thing that we don't touch.
The Freud family is a good example. Anna Freud suffered from depression all her life and never had children.
Sigmund Freud was terrified of the number 62, and so he refused to ever stay in a hotel that had more than 61 rooms in case he got number 62. And the first time after he'd made this rule, the first room that he was booked into was number 31. And he went, oh, see? Half of 62.
Yeah, but 62 rhymes with poo. 6 looks like a poo, pursued by a swan.
You know, one of the things that people say is sort of a test of whether you're anal is whether you keep your records in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
All that, and I think, well, surely it depends on how many records you've got. I mean, if you've just got 2 and you keep going back and checking and going, oh, ABBA, ZZ Top, they're still there, that's all right. I've got a room full of bloody records. I keep them in alphabetical order so I can find the one I want. Apparently it means I've got a problem with my arse. How is that?
I shouldn't think, in her time, they had alphabeti spaghetti.
That's true.
Which was the main reason I play with my food every breakfast.
I just insert my meatballs up my arsehole whenever they turn up on the plate.
And if they want to call you anal, it's up to them.
It's in their court. The ball is in their court.
The ball is up your arse. Ineffably, imponderably stupid. Right, to get you in the mood, here are some foods for you to try. You should have some on your little prop tables.
Oh.
You've got chocolates there, Josh. You've got a potato, Alan. What have you got, Ken?
Well, I don't...
champagne.
It looks like champagne. It
Or
could be anything.
probably carver.
You could have had a wee in here earlier, for all I know.
You wouldn't want it to fizz, though, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Is your
Put your finger on top.
I was still on the loo.
I hope it's fresh. I think it's fresh and edible if you want to eat it.
Well, I hope it's fresh
you
as
could
well.
drop it in the champagne. It's quite delicious.
Oh,
in champagne.
God, I love...
I'm allergic to champagne, literally.
Are you?
Yeah, I can't drink it.
Oh, darling,
Gives me
it must be
asthma.
simply terrible for you.
Christopher Hitchens rather wonderfully said the 4 most overrated things in the world are lobster, champagne, anal sex and picnics.
What a night that would be.
Come on, they're all daytime.
Anyway, so you by all means eat yours, but what do you think they have to do with our theme? Chocolate?
Sexy foods.
Yeah.
Aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiacs. They're considered to be aphrodisiacs. Yeah. Oysters have long been considered it.
Potato? Yes, Alan. 1,000 times yes.
You can go on a date, of course, with 2 potatoes and a carrot and lay them out on the desk or the table in a very erotic way and tantalise people.
That's true. 2 potatoes and a carrot.
Are you single, Tony, are you?
At what point in the date do you pull out the potato?
Well, the desk. I admit that the desk on the date, the date's going badly wrong.
Well, do have a piece of chocolate, do sip your champagne, and do, by all means,
I mean...
have your oyster.
I do love oysters, but one time I did get poisoning on a Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day? Oh! Are you eating your potato raw?
Is that allowed?
I don't...
Oh. Okay, here she goes, oyster down. Oh!
It's bigger than I'm used to.
Hey!
Oh!
How is it?
Oh, very nice.
I'm definitely going to tape this episode, I can tell you that.
Try your chocolate, I think.
Oh, they're very nice.
You might have rose petals or violets.
Are you all right, Alan?
I feel horny.
Look out, Jeff.
It's worked. Bloody hell, 2 bites.
Well, the reason that potatoes were considered to be aphrodisiacs at one point in history, this is maybe something Ashley knows, is that when they were introduced to Ireland as a major crop, the population of Ireland increased a huge amount. But it was simply because there was less starvation than there had been before. Though, as we know, there was then the terrible potato blight and the population reduced.
You have to bring it up.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. It was a bad moment in Irish history.
It's fine. I'm I'm nearly over it.
There's still more guilt to be got out of it from us. Carbs are the last thing you'd want before sex. That would make you feel heavy, wouldn't it, you'd think?
Yeah. Depends how long you want to go on for, John.
Just slow release. Porridge. Slow release.
No.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that, Stephen. I'm going to have a chocolate and stop lowering the tone, I think. The fact is, if you go online, not that this is the most authoritative way of finding out, but almost any food that you put next to the word aphrodisiac in a search field will return a result of some kind. There seems to be no food in history that hasn't been regarded at some time as aphrodisiac. Why wouldn't you want to share a meal with these men?
They'd kill you.
Yeah. Look, it looks like. As you can see, they've got napkins and napkin
That doesn't mean they
rings.
won't kill you.
No, it doesn't.
Share a meal with this, not bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
They
Cannibals.
eat lethal foods.
They
eat people.
No, they didn't eat people. They were paid in meals. 3 meals a day was their reward for eating poison, or at least eating additives that could be considered dangerous.
Oh my
It was
God.
the first move on the part of the US Department of Agriculture to codify the possibility of additives being something that should be regulated. And so they got these volunteers who swiftly gained the nickname the Poison Club. And they ate some extraordinary things. October 1902 to July 1903, they experimented with eating borax. Their Christmas menu was applesauce borax, soup borax, turkey borax, canned green beans, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, turnips, borax, chipped beef, cream gravy, cranberry sauce, celery, pickles, rice pudding, milk, bread and butter, tea, coffee, a little borax.
They were well fed.
I don't like borax!
You having it? I've told you, it's Christmas, everyone's having borax. Your dad likes it.
Andy Williams with a very borax Christmas. Can you name something that we use borax for today?
Is it an element?
It's
cleaning.
not a washing.
It's cleaning,
powder.
isn't it?
Cleaning as a
Yeah.
detergent, but it's used as a fire retardant and an antifungal compound.
Quite useful to have in your system, then, really. Resistant to all poison and flames.
Yeah, well, that's true. There's no record of any of them actually dying, but they were weighed and their blood pressure was taken and their pulse and everything else.
Until 1912, when they introduced LD50 testing, and then it all went tits up.
And in 1906, Congress passed a couple of acts, the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act, which was to help with food for the first time. That's the point. So there you are. Never accept a dinner invitation from the Poison Squad.